Allen & Company wishes OOIDA and all members a safe, healthy, and joyous holiday season.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Redding.
Today, we welcome back a friend of the show and of the trucking industry, U.S. Representative Troy Nehls. We check in with the congressman from Texas about a trucking bill he introduced, a couple more he's co-sponsored, and the importance of reaching out to your lawmakers to make sure they understand the issues that matter to you. An issue that's been on truckers' minds for decades is finally coming to a head: broker transparency. I'll get some analysis of where the issue stands and discuss a bill that just passed the U.S. House that's designed to temper regulations that affect small businesses, from Jami Jones and Mark Schremmer of Landline magazine. And finally, you may have noticed, depending on where in the country you are, that it's cold outside. And Marty Ellis says that brings up some important topics. Among them is when you should or shouldn't chain up and what the laws are in different states. I'll talk with the man who drives the spirit of the American trucker. But first, the news with Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Mark. The House on Thursday evening passed a bill that would force federal regulators to think about small business owners like owner-operators when crafting new rules. We've told you before about the Prove It Act, introduced by Representative Brad Finstad of Minnesota earlier this year. The bipartisan bill would do a few things for small business truckers. The congressman who spoke on the House floor before its passage on Thursday said the Prove It Act would give small businesses a seat at the table during the regulatory process and shield them from the most heavy-handed one-size-fits-all regulations.
Government red tape has made it harder and more costly for Americans to start a business, for many, hindering their opportunity to achieve the American dream. For too long, D.C. bureaucrats have abused their power, trampling over the small businesses that are the backbone of our communities.
The Prove It Act would seek to reverse that trend in several ways. For one, it would require that agencies consider indirect regulatory costs when writing regulations, something current law does not do.
Simply put, the Prove It Act gives teeth to the already existing law, the Regulatory Flexibility Act, which is often ignored by federal agencies in pursuit of their own political agenda. Under RFA, agencies are required to complete an initial and final analysis of their regulations and certify that they will not have a significant impact on a substantial number of small entities. Unfortunately, in many cases, agencies have failed to meet the standards set out by the RFA and in turn have left our small business owners with the short end of the stick.
The result, Congressman Finstad said, has come to a great cost to the American taxpayer.
Throughout the last 4 years, the Biden-Harris administration has improperly certified dozens of regulations as not having a significant impact on a substantial number of small businesses. Moreover, according to the American Action Forum, since 2009, federal regulations have cost American taxpayers and business owners $2.3 trillion to comply with and have added 985 million hours of paperwork for our small businesses to shoulder. The Biden administration alone has accounted for $1.8 trillion of these costs and over 340 million paperwork hours. With these compliance costs and paperwork hours skyrocketing, the Prove It Act is more important now than ever. Specifically, the Prove It Act will require federal agencies to analyze both the direct and indirect costs their regulations would have on our small entities, create a way for small businesses to petition their chief advocate in government to review agencies' work and to make them prove they are fully compliant with already existing laws. If agencies fail to comply with their review process, small businesses would be exempt from the regulations in question.
The Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association was an early supporter of the Prove It Act. After it passed the House, OOIDA President Todd Spencer thanked Congressman Finstad and the bill's original co-sponsors for their work and said the Prove It Act would keep government overreach and burdensome overregulation off of the backs of the men and women behind the wheel who keep our economy moving. Representative Finstad echoed that sentiment in his address.
It's time that we strengthen and empower our small business community rather than force them to comply with unnecessary and burdensome regulations.
The House passed the Prove It Act with a bipartisan vote of 208 to 196. The bill now heads to the Senate for consideration. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration posting 2 new notices related to exemption requests. One is a denial. The agency announcing its decision to deny a request from 3 North LLC, which transports concrete for wind turbine foundations. The company had asked for a 5-year exemption for 3 of its CDO holders who are under the age of 21. Current regulations limit CDO holders under the age of 21 to intrastate operations in the driver's home state. 3 North LLC says the 3 people working under the exemption would have driven for less than 20 miles a day in another state, but only after they had been driven there by CDO holders who are over the age of 21. In its denial, FMCSA said the company had not proven that granting such an exemption would be as safe or safer than current regulations. The agency received 6 total comments on the request, 1 in support of the application and 3 against, with the other 2 taking a neutral stance. Meanwhile, FMCSA also posted a new request from one individual truck driver. Albert Farley Jr. has requested an exemption from the theory and behind-the-wheel instructor requirements contained in the entry-level driver training regulations for himself as a prospective training instructor. Farley wants an exemption from the requirement that instructors have at least 2 years of driving experience of the same or higher class and or the same endorsement level as a commercial motor vehicle that will be operated. Farley said he made the request due to the growing demand for Class A CDO operators in his county. The public will have 30 days to comment once the request is officially posted on the Federal Register. The Texas Supreme Court this week heard oral arguments in a controversial nuclear verdict case involving Werner Enterprises. Last year, the 14th Court of Appeals in Texas affirmed a lower court's 9-figure verdict, finding the trucking company and its driver liable for a 2014 crash that killed 1 child and paralyzed another. Despite all the facts suggesting that the Werner truck driver did nothing wrong, the plaintiff's attorneys convinced a jury otherwise. Werner was ordered to pay more than $100 million. At the center of oral arguments on Tuesday was a level of duty a truck driver owes to motorists traveling in the other direction of a divided highway. And finally, a couple new truck stops just opened up in different parts of the country. Travel Centers of America cut the ribbon on a new TA Express in Wisconsin. The new location in New Lisbon off Interstate 90 has 50 truck parking spaces. And Sheetz has a new store in Marmot, West Virginia, just off Interstate 64. That location has 19 truck parking spaces. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Scott. You can write a letter to your elected officials in Congress or look up contact information for lawmakers who represent you on the state and federal level by using the website fightingfortruckers.com. Again, that's at fightingfortruckers.com. Starting Saturday, Marty Ellis and OOIDA's tour truck, The Spirit of the American Trucker, will be at the Quick Star in Brooklyn, Iowa. That's located at exit 201 on Interstate 80. Stop in, say hi to Marty, and join OOIDA for a $10 discount. OOIDA is seeking the names and addresses of military personnel who were serving overseas so we can send them care packages through Truckers for Troops. You can call that information in to Nikki Johnson at our main number, 816-229-5791, or email it to troops@ooida.com. Again, the phone number is 816-229-5791 or email troops@ooida.com. If a carrier, shipper, receiver, or broker tries to coerce you into violating the regulations, first of all, document what happened. Then either call 1-888-DOT-SAFT or file a complaint online to the National Consumer Complaint Database. Again, that's 1-888-DOT-SAFT. Next, Scott Thompson discusses some important trucking legislation with U.S. Representative Troy Nehls. I'll go over a broker transparency proposal and a bill to temper regulations on small businesses with Jami Jones and Mark Schremmer. And Marty Ellis joins the program to discuss cold weather, chaining up, and more. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Penske owns and operates some of the best-maintained vehicles on the planet. Our used trucks come with a 5-year maintenance report and pre-sale inspection. So if you're in the market for a top-quality pre-owned truck, Look no further. Search our inventory today at PenskeUsedTrucks.com.
Capital Reman, the leader in remanufactured diesel engines and components, has partnered with OOIDA to offer exclusive member benefits. Visit CapitalReman.com today to support America's transportation industry and take advantage of your benefits.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Welcome back to Landline Now as we welcome back a friend of the show and the trucking industry, U.S. Representative Troy Nehls. We thought we'd check in with the congressman from Texas about a trucking bill he introduced, a couple more he has co-sponsored, and the importance of reaching out to your lawmakers to make sure they understand the issues that matter to you. Congressman Nehls, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's good to be with you.
Yeah, how you been?
Good. I tell you, I had a great Thanksgiving. My family's well. I'm a very blessed man. I have a beautiful bride, 3 daughters. They keep me busy, in addition to 4 dogs at the house. So I need therapy for that. But the point is, everything is good. I'm looking forward to the Christmas season. The holidays are here, and it's a fabulous time of the year. And
we're certainly going to talk about some of the issues that I know you'll be thinking about in the coming year. I also want to talk to you about advocacy and making sure your elected representatives know how people stand out there. But I kind of want to run through a few issues here that you've been involved with in Congress, starting with your bill, the Trucker Bathroom Access Act, which we've told people over the course of several months, would guarantee truckers the right to use the bathroom at shippers and receivers. Do you plan to reintroduce that in the new Congress?
absolutely. And I think this is a common sense bill. I mean, I think your truckers know. I mean, they experience this where, you're delivering some goods and services to a business, a warehouse, and you have to use the men's room or the ladies' room, and all of a sudden you get turned down when you request to use a bathroom facility, which to me, as I think, is absolutely outrageous to think that if a bathroom is there and it's a working facility, I mean, why wouldn't you allow the people that are moving your goods and services to and fro to use the bathroom? We're not saying you got to let them take a shower, but just the bathroom. And the businesses, now, if a business doesn't have access to a bathroom, I get it. We're not asking you to build a bathroom or construct a bathroom and have an undue, an expense, a financial expense. We're just saying that if you have a bathroom and it's in working order, allow truckers, male and female, to be able to use a bathroom. But I will introduce it because it's just common sense.
Yeah, when I spoke to you about a year and a half ago about this bill, you said basically, and I'm paraphrasing here, but you'd like to talk with anybody who does not support something like this and give them a good talking to. Again, I'm paraphrasing here, but how have those talks with your colleagues on Capitol Hill gone? Are they generally receptive to this issue?
Well, I'm surprised that I haven't been able to get this thing on the House floor for a vote, which is kind of a little disappointing. I think there are some groups out there that don't like to see wouldn't like to see this bill passed. I mean, I don't understand it. I mean, we always talk about we need more ladies in trucking. We need to have more ladies, women in trucking, and we have obviously a shortage of truckers. We need 7,000 more truckers to move the goods and services around, and so if we want to encourage young ladies, women, to get into trucking, you would think that we would find a way to make it easier on them if they have to use a restroom. I really don't understand the argument here, other than if you really listen. If you're a guy, I mean, it's easy. You could just go to the back of the truck and find the tire. You know what I mean? It's pretty simple. I mean, let's be honest with each other. But for ladies, it's just not as simple as that. And I think that you would like to be able to provide them a facility, a bathroom to use. And so those that are obstructionists or fighting this, I really don't understand the argument. We're not asking these businesses and others to build new restroom facilities. If you have a bathroom available, my God, have the damn courtesy, the common courtesy, to allow the people that are picking up your goods or dropping them off to use the restroom. That's it. Simple.
Pretty simple. Common sense legislation there for sure. Another trucking related bill that you just signed on to as a co-sponsor, I believe, the Guaranteed Overtime for Truckers or Got Truckers Act. Can you talk a little bit about that and what drew you to support that bill?
Yes, I think it's, you know what, I mean, in every other seems to, you work in other industry, if you're working over 40 hours, whether it's law enforcement or in some public service, firemen or whatever, if you work over 40 hours, you're eligible to receive overtime. Why would that not apply here to truckers as well? So, I mean, we have all these restrictions on the number of hours you can drive. You got to take a nap here, there before you can continue to drive. But if you're working more than 40 hours, I think that they are certainly should be eligible to overtime. And somebody explained to me, and I haven't found one yet, a logical reason or explanation as to why we wouldn't have overtime for our nation's truckers. It makes no sense.
Yeah, again, one of these common sense issues that has popped up in recent months there in Congress. Another one, a huge issue for every trucker out there, whether they're company drivers, owner operators, you name it, truck parking. Every time there's a hearing about trucking, the issue comes up, rightfully so, I think. We've got the Truck Parking Safety Improvement Act. If it doesn't get pushed through in the next few weeks, what are its chances of popping up again next year and hopefully finally passing?
Oh, I don't think we're going to stop fighting for this one. I think Mike Bost on our transportation infrastructure is really passionate about this, and I am as well. Listen, a month or so ago, I drove a vehicle down from the state of Wisconsin down to the great state of Texas. It's about 1,250 miles, 18-hour trip. And, you know, traveling down I-57, heading down to, you know, Interstate 40 and 30, going through Little Rock outside of Memphis to Texarkana and then down to Houston, you saw an enormous amount of trucks on the road. And there are a lot of those trucks that there were areas, they found some nice rest areas and they were packed with trucks. Lots of trucks packed. The parking lots are full. And then you're starting to see these trucks just parked on the shoulder of some of these roads. And I think that can be very, very dangerous for the trucker as well as the traveling public. I mean, people not paying attention, people running into the back of these trucks with all the distractions we have in our vehicles today with our cell phones and things like that. So I just think this issue is more, if you're going to get pushback on this, it's the cost to it. It's the price tag of helping, you know, building these parking lots. And you probably need to put concrete there instead of asphalt because of a hot mix. Because of the weight and stuff. So this is probably a more of an issue related to financial cost than it is anything else. So, but we'll continue to push for it because I think it's the right thing to do. It really, really is.
Yeah, I'm optimistic about that, hopefully, in this next Congress here. You know, it should be mentioned that all the bills we just mentioned, the bathroom bill, the overtime bill, the parking bill, all have bipartisan support. That means something, especially in today's political climate. Does that give you some more hope or additional hope, I suppose, that they'll eventually pass, or am I being a bit too naive here?
No, it does. I mean, again, I think these are just common sense issues. I mean, this we're not talking about abortion. You know, I mean, this is common sense here. This, I think the majority of the American people would look at this and say, what the hell took you guys so long? You know, this is just common sense legislation. The bathroom bill, I have to be full disclosure. The bathroom bill, I said, we actually need Congress to do something about this. I mean, I think sometimes I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me. Are there really businesses out there that are just saying, no, you're not going to use my restroom? I'm not asking you to take a bath in your sink. We're just saying, go use the restroom. And then if you don't provide that and somebody has to relieve himself in the tree in the back of the building, and all of a sudden they want to charge he or she for disorderly conduct. I mean, none of this makes sense, but I think that, listen, Sam Graves got his waiver. Whether he's going to continue to be the chairman for 2 more years of transportation and infrastructure, I don't know. I know there's another individual that's vying for that position as well. But these bills are common sense. They have bipartisan support. We have a unified government now with the Senate and the presidency. And I'll be fighting very, very hard to see some of this common sense, easy peasy, in my opinion, legislation become law.
Which leads us to the advocacy part of this conversation. I guess it was about a year ago now, you were involved in a hearing with the various heads of various departments. You held up an issue of Landline magazine when questioning then administrator of NHTSA, Ann Carlson. And you suggested basically that she read an article inside dedicated to automatic emergency brakes.
Miss Carlson, have you familiar with this magazine?
I don't,
Oh,
but I will.
you got to read the magazine.
You recommend it
The whole
highly.
industry, everybody's driving up. Very dangerous. So why had a truck say an emergency, automated emergency brake mandate would jeopardize safety? It talks about one of the truck drivers that it was either a shadow or the guardrail caused her to lose control in this thing, scared the hell out of her. Matter of fact, I got a little Lexus, and I was backing up out of the grocery store, the H-E-B the other day, and all of a sudden, the damn thing slammed the brakes and scared my wife. I said, what the heck's happening? Well, this thing must have detected a vehicle coming from my left or my right. This can be very, very dangerous. And if you read this, matter of fact, I'll give you this copy
Thank
once
you.
I'm done. You need to read this when it talks about these brakes and how dangerous it's going to be.
Can you take us back to that exchange and why specifically you decided to hold up that magazine and make that point?
Well, because I think that, you get these bureaucrats up here in Washington, and everybody up here seems to have a better idea, a greater idea than the men and women that are actually in the trucks putting thousands of miles on each and every week, tens of thousands each and every month. So the point is that I think sometimes it's all about deregulation. Don't try to come up with more things that we can regulate and place on the trucking industry. And whether it's the brakes, whether it's the speed limiters and all this other stuff, I'm like, let the truckers go out there. The truckers know what they need to do. They want to go out there and operate on our roadways safely. They do. They don't want to harm themselves. They don't want to cause any harm to anyone else. So I think we need to start paying a little bit closer attention and see what we can do to support the truckers that are out on the road each and every day. And not just have these bureaucrats in these offices, someplace in some corner in Washington, D.C., start coming up with some ideas and just make things more difficult in the trucking industry. That doesn't help the industry. It's going to, I think you're going to see more individuals possibly leaving the industry as a result of too much regulation and not enough common sense.
You get that magazine every month, I think, right? From an OIDA board member, Danny Schnautz.
Oh, yeah. We think you guys are great. I think it's, I love our truckers. We get the magazine up in our office. And I just wanted to bring that one down to the hearing because I thought we got to talk about this. I don't think she lasted very long after that, if I wasn't sure. I'm not sure.
That's true. Yeah.
The point is that, listen, I'm fighting for you all. I understand that you are the backbone. We need you very, very bad. I appreciate the truckers. I understand the sacrifices that you all make, moving these goods and services around, having to deal with, obviously overpopulated highways. I mean, we got a lot of people moving around. And I just appreciate what you do being away from your families. So America and our supply chain can be replenished. And you're doing a hell of a job with it. So I support our truckers and I'll continue to do so in this next legislative session.
Congressman, you've been very generous with your time. We do appreciate it. Before we let you go, any final words for our truck driving friends out there?
No, just go out there and just remain safe. Go out there and just continue to do what you're doing and just know that I'm optimistic about 2025 and I want you to feel the same way. Know that Congress is up there and Congress supports our truckers. I certainly do, and I know there are many, many other members that feel the same way I do, and I'm going to do what I can to fight like hell for you.
Congressman Nehls, thanks so much for your time. We really do appreciate it. We'll talk to you again, hopefully in 2025 when all these issues come back up again.
Absolutely. God bless you and your listeners.
Our thanks once again to Representative Troy Nehls of Texas. If you'd like to reach out to your representatives in Congress about trucking issues, there's no easier way to do that than the FightingForTruckers.com website. It's a one-stop shop for advocating on behalf of yourself and your fellow truckers. That website again, FightingForTruckers.com. We'll take a break, but hang tight. Landline Now's back right after this.
Running on ultra-low sulfur diesel? Stay protected this winter with Howe's Diesel Treat and Diesel Lifeline. Steer clear of gel and ice with North America's #1 trusted brand. Find Howe's products nationwide at select retailers, auto parts stores, truck stops, and on Amazon.com.
When it's time to overhaul your truck engine, help protect it by insisting on a genuine Vibertech TVD crankshaft damper. Heavy duty, absolute premium quality, and they're made right here in the USA. Find a dealer at vibertechtvd.com.
Truckdown.com. Whenever you have a breakdown, you need Truckdown.com. 24/7 access to 40,000 verified heavy-duty repair vendors nationwide.
Truck revived. Deliveries thrive.
Truckdown.com.
Landline now. Welcome back. It's been a busy week in trucking news with some significant developments on big stories. Here to give us some insight into what happened are Jami Jones and Mark Schremmer of Landline Magazine. Thank you both for joining me.
Hey, you're welcome, Mark.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
One of the major issues that's been in trucking for many, many years, but really has kind of picked up steam in the past couple of years here, and especially this year, is broker transparency. And I want to start with kind of where we stand right now with that issue.
Well, after a long time coming, FMCSA recently introduced a proposal kind of tightening up and trying to improve broker transparency, requiring, if requested, the transactions within 48 hours, and really trying, to make this push that's something that drivers have been asking for a long time. And right now we have a comment period that is active until January 21st.
And this is something, it's kind of interesting now because we are about to see the second Trump administration start.
Yeah.
But this kind of goes back to Trump administration 1.
Yeah, it really does. It kind of dates back. I mean, obviously this has been an issue, as we've said, that OIDA has been talking about. It's been problematic for a long time. And if we go, and Jami's always the expert on the history lessons with stuff. But for me to give, a real quick snapshot of it, I mean, there have been broker transparency regulations on the books for decades, and OIDA has talked about the lack of enforcement and so many brokers finding ways to evade and have loopholes to those regulations. So that's been talked about a long time. But back in May 2020, freight rates had just dipped like astronomically. And so a lot of truck drivers actually took to Washington, D.C., a real grassroots effort, maybe about 100 trucks per day for a couple of weeks. We're out there in Washington, D.C., honking their horns, asking for broker transparency and to have something done. And it really caught the attention all the way up to the White House. There was the truckers were able to meet with Mark Meadows, who was White House Chief of Staff at the time, and also it prompted comments from President Donald Trump, and he said things at the time. I'm with the truckers all the way. Thanks for meeting at the White House with my representatives. It's all going to work out well. He went on Fox and Friends, talked about truckers being price gouged, and said, that they were going to do something about it, was kind of the promise there. And, at that same time, while all that's going on, OIDA formally asked a petition to FMCSA to do this. And here we fast forward 4 years later, and the wheels are turning, and we finally have a proposal. One of the things I think that we need to talk about on this is the Trump administration is, I think, known and in a lot of good ways where most truckers would support that they're probably going to roll back a lot of regulations. They, have less regulations coming through, but this is one that most truckers obviously want. And I think these comments that go all the way back to May 2020 and these roots with the Trump administration, looks like there could be a good chance that this might be one that actually could make it to the finish line.
And I think it's important we talk about how we've been waiting for this forever. And and by forever, I mean decades, forever, because, brokers have used the ability, their compliance with the regulation had always been, well, if you want to see the paperwork, all you have to do is come by the office.
Yeah.
And, we have this modern marvel called email. I know. I mean, you don't even get the AOL dial-up tones anymore. I mean, it's really...
I know. I miss those.
But, it should be incredibly easy to do. This is not a big ask. And I think that's what was impressive for me when the conversation fired up during 2020 and the Trump administration started paying attention. I mean, they acknowledged that truckers weren't asking for a lot. This is not even a big ask. It is simply just, righting a wrong that has been perpetuated for decades. And that's just one of those things that now it's on us and the truckers to keep that pressure on, because before we went on air, we were talking about May 2020. That was barely 4.5 years ago, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't that long ago. It feels like a frickin' lifetime ago. You drop a pandemic in there and how everybody's lives were in complete upheaval. Freight rates spiked. After that, we've had a hell of a roller coaster that we have been on. So memories are short right now because it feels the whole time warp that we've been in. So in order for this to be successful, we had the conversation going. We were being acknowledged. Everything was right. But there may need to be some big reminders to get us back to that point as well.
It's interesting. You mentioned memories are short, but you also talked about how long that truckers and OOIDA and others have been pressing on this issue. And it seems to me that this is kind of an example of several parts of what you have to do to get something like this to happen. Protests can bring attention to something, but they rarely result in actual action by government. You've got to keep it alive. You've got to keep reminding people, and then you've got to have that follow-up in the government system, whether we like it or not. That's how stuff gets done.
Yeah, it's, the flash in the pan protests are, they're great to get the conversation started. They have their place in our government. I'm not on any issue. So they are definitely the conversation starter, though. That's it.
And that's why it was so important, like I mentioned before. So we had the protest. It's catching the attention all the way up to the White House. But that petition that was filed by OIDA, in conjunction with that, at the same time, that's why that was so important. And that's why we're here today, because it would have been so easy for that to get lost in the shuffle. There was a change in office in the administration shortly after that. It would have been easily to get lost in the shuffle. But because that petition was on the books and it was finally, accepted in 2023 by the FMCSA, now we have a proposal. And like I said, we have a comment period that is going through January 21st. We already have 800 comments that have been filed. That's great, but it's not enough.
There's more than 800 truckers that have been screwed by bad brokers. I'm sorry. That's the math of it. And this is where you start holding their feet to the fire and keeping the conversation going, is to file those comments and get that on there, because the agency is going to be obligated to review those and report back to the administration. And that will be after Trump is, sworn into office.
Yeah.
So this comment period, it's like, welcome back to the White House. We have a few things we want to talk about, And that's really where we are. And I think the timing, I thought it was a little wild at first, and then it was like, this actually is pretty freaking sweet, the way it's all stacking up.
Yeah, and 800 comments are good for a lot of things that we see in trucking. But you remember speed limiters, we got 15,000 comments. That's more along the lines of what I think we should see.
Hard to ignore that.
For something this comprehensive that affects so many drivers out there on the road.
And it's so easy to do. I mean, you can go to Fighting for Truckers. There's links there. And for heaven's sake, if you are having trouble or getting confused by it, call OOIDA. We have people here who can walk you through the process on how to comment. And you do not have to to be a lawyer. You do not have to even be, great at, writing or anything. We can get the point across through comments.
Let's switch tracks here. And by the way, folks, we will put a direct link to where you can comment at landlinenow.com. But I want to switch tracks here and talk about something that has just happened, which is we've got some important breaking news on the Prove It Act. This thing actually, I guess, passed out of the House?
Yeah, it passed by a relatively small margin, but 208 to 196 just on Thursday night. So that has passed. And basically, as by the name, kind of the idea of it is trying to go against burdensome and unnecessary regulations on small businesses, and that if you have to kind of prove it that it is a worthy regulation to be able to go through. And here we are. It's December. This session is about to wrap up. So I don't know that we'll be able to actually, the Senate will take this up before the session closes, but this still was a positive step to show that the House was able to pass this, and it shows, there's probably a good chance that it would pass again in the next session, and we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah, there's a little bit of government 101 that we probably need to drop in here, and that's the fact that, the chances of the Senate picking it up and getting it passed and signed by President Biden before Trump's sworn in that's going to be that's a tall order.
Yeah.
And also the bill effectively dies at the end of this congressional session, so it'll have to be reintroduced. But then again, let's go back to the appetite of the Trump administration and its, fierce hatred for overregulation. This is a very good. This is a great step. It shows that the House is behind it. The chances of it's just the process in this lame duck session is just messed up. But there is such great opportunity for this type of legislation to pass under the Trump administration, with control being completely in both the House and Senate in Republican control.
Yeah, this is definitely one that I think that there has been some bipartisan support on this, but this has mostly, been Republican dominated. And like you said, we're coming in, we're going to have a Republican majority in the House. We've already shown that they can do it under this one. And then we're going to have a Republican Senate and obviously a Republican president next term. So I think there's a very good chance that this could pass all the way and be signed into law in the next session.
So, when we talk about the Trump administration, one of the first things he did, every administration, when it changes over, the first thing they do is put a pin in anything in the regulatory pipeline. They don't want to let those 11th hour, pieces of legislation, regulation go into effect. They want it to be under their, platform and their program. So that will happen inevitably because it happens with every administration. But the one thing that he did when he took office the first time was put an executive order out there for every regulation that they want to put on the books. They have to pull 2 off. And I was sitting there and I thought, that is the craziest thing I've ever heard. And then you go and you look at the Green Book of Trucking Regulations and how fat that thing is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Though there was something they did at that time that kind of disturbed me, and I think I saw this mostly at FMCSA. That's just what we look at.
Yeah.
But they were like trying to drop regulations that they hadn't been enforcing in years and dropping 2 of those to put a new one in. Does it look like we might see something like that if the Prove It Act goes all the way? I mean, are they going to try and get around that the way they tried to get around that?
You never really know. I mean, there's the spirit of the law and there's compliance with the law. And honestly, we'll always see brokers, they don't comply with the spirit of the broker transparency regulations on the book. So, I mean, you will always have that element that will maliciously comply without complying with the spirit of the law. So it's a crapshoot.
Well, thank you both for joining me very much and for all the information here.
Oh, you're welcome, Mark.
Yeah, thank you.
I've been talking with Jami Jones and Mark Schremmer of Landline Magazine. You can learn more about these stories and other news of the week at landline.media. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
At Truck Stop, we built a better load board for carriers like you. Sign up today and access over 600,000 loads on the most trusted online load board. Learn why the best in the business rely on Truck Stop to make more money and start driving your profit today.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com, because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now. Welcome back. Every week, we check in with Marty Ellis, who drives OOIDA's tour truck, The Spirit of the American Trucker. You may have noticed, depending on where in the country you are, that it's cold outside. And while that may be stating the obvious, it does bring up some very important topics. Among those, one very big one is when you should or shouldn't chain up, people who either avoid or don't want to chain up, and what the laws are in different states.
Carolina west to Denver, up to Bangor, west to Austin, coast to coast, sea to sea, sail on, sail on.
Well, Marty, how are you doing?
I am lovely, Mark, and you?
I'm doing great, thank you very much. Where are we finding you on this fine day?
Well, I am over at the Quick Star truck stop in Stuart, Iowa. That's exit 93 off of I-80 here. And they have 5 showers and, of course, a really good selection of hot food and food that you can take along and heat up or cook, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, they're kind of a rising star among the truck stops, aren't they? I've heard good things about them.
Absolutely. I have yet to ever talk to somebody that didn't really like their the way they do things. They keep their places up nice. Some other places could use a little bit more parking, but, I think they do well with what they're doing right now, and they're getting bigger as far as their parking lots. So it's definitely a great place for truck drivers to stop, and they have expanded into South Dakota. I guess they're going to go into Nebraska here shortly. And of course, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Illinois even. So, yeah, it's they're really getting going.
Okay, well, it'll be interesting to watch. In the meanwhile, let's talk about some of the things going on right now. And you mentioned a lot of cold places there, Marty, and it kind of brings up the topic of chaining up and kind of what's going on with that right now. And something brought that to your mind as well. What was that?
Yeah, just talking to some of our members and that on what they're expected to do, by their companies, by the shippers and receivers, and what they feel comfortable doing. And more and more people are not wanting to put chains on, and I totally get that. I guess I got to that point too before I came here. The last few years of regular trucking, I got to the point of saying, look, if I need to put chains on to get out of a situation, that's one thing, but I don't really want to put them on to get into one. And so that's kind of what I did. There's certain instances where you really have to. I mean, there's, like a ship's waiting, and if you don't get there, that product isn't getting on that ship. Well, that can be a problem. So some of the time you're going to be put in a situation like that, and you may have to put them on. And the best thing I can say to people is be very picky on where you're going to put them on at. There's people that I'm guessing we probably hear reports of a couple people a year getting run over while they're out there putting chains on or taking them off. And you don't want to put yourself in that position either. And of course, some guys get out there without any safety gear on as far as, being able to see, whether it's a vest or a jacket that have reflective tape and that on them. But I know that I've been in a situation where people will be coming in too fast into a chaining area, and the truck that's coming in too fast starts sliding, and you never know what's going to happen once your vehicle starts to slide. So I just tell everybody, if you're going to do it, be very careful. If you don't have to do it, don't. Just go and park and and be done, until things clear up.
I've seen this system on some fire trucks. I haven't seen them on big trucks very often, but it's just kind of on the inside side of the tire. They've got this little post that comes down with a bunch of chains, maybe foot long, and it spins and keeps throwing that little length of chain under the tire. And it's kind of a neat idea where you wouldn't have to chain up, but you get the benefit of the chains. But I would suspect that's kind of expensive, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. I haven't priced them out here lately, but when I did, they were, I think if I remember right, they were around the $2,500 mark. And then, of course, the cost of getting them installed. But, a lot of school buses have those, so they don't, want their school bus drivers to go out there and try to put chains on. So you can actually just hit a lever and it goes right, into action right away. There's no hesitation. But there are some trucks out there that have them on, that I've seen them have them on. Some of our members have them. Especially if you're going to own a truck for a long period of time. To me, if you're going to be driving up in the areas that you would need chains fairly often, it would definitely be worth the investment.
Absolutely. And folks, if you've got questions about the chain laws in individual states or areas, just go to landline.media and under resources, just scroll down to Chain Laws 2024. It's a fantastic resource, kind of what's legal where and what's not legal where. And of course, the reason we're even talking about chains, Marty, is winter is here, and it seems like we're in for some cold weather.
Yeah, I've already started the first full day in Stewart. Started the day at 12 degrees, and boy, it's taken a while for the trailer to get warmed up and that, but we're finally up to 35, and boy, it's feeling like a balmy spring day. So, but yeah, it's getting a little chilly out there. The weather's getting worse in a lot of places. I talked to a buddy the other day that was stuck in Michigan with a big crash over there on 94, and they were being rerouted, and he was asking some questions on logging and that as far as his electronic log, and can you go off duty while you're stuck in on the road in that situation. He was wondering about that, or can you go on duty and not in the driving position? And it's from what I read about the directions on that is that as long as you're behind that driver's seat, you are driving, whether you're parked there or not. And so you definitely can't go off duty. If you're ELD, some of them I've heard will go to on duty not driving if the truck has sat for more than 5 minutes. And well, if the ELD does it, well, then it's not on you, but if you're doing it, I would be very careful on that. You want to stay legal, and especially in this bad weather, you don't know what can happen. You can get in an accident before you even think about it, and you don't want to have to be trying to explain why you went off duty, when you were stuck in traffic, a little while before that. And of course, there is the adverse driving conditions, 2-hour thing where you can use, to extend your day out. The problem with that is if you knew that storm was coming in, then you really can't use it. Or if you knew that construction was on the road, or you should have known, then you can't use it either. So it's kind of it's one of them really, really gray areas in our logging system, and which I've never been a fan of that gray area, because I would rather know whether I'm doing it correctly or not before I do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just for folks out there that maybe aren't as familiar with driving, the one thing I hear from the old timers over and over is slow down in that cold weather.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, Marty, we're running out of time here. Where are you headed to next?
We'll be going over to the Quick Star in Brooklyn, Iowa, and that'll be the 7th and 8th, and that's exit 201 off I-80. Then after that, we're going down to Gasper's for the first time in Kingdom City, Missouri, the 10th through the 12th. So if you're anywhere in the area, please stop in and say hello.
Fantastic. Any final words before you ride off into the sunset?
Hey, guys, just be kind to one another and give that driver next to you a break.
Brothers of the highway, children of the wind,
Once again, that was Marty Ellis, who drives OOIDA's tour truck, The Spirit of the American Trucker. You can find Marty's next stop on our show and every day at our website, landlinenow.com. That includes truck stops, truck shows, and other special events across the country. That's our program for today. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife,
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
my kids,
chrome,
and I am
a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us!
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.